And as we get into it, a reminder that our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X across platforms. And our audience on KTN this morning, very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us in the room. In the hot seat this morning, CJ Emeritus David Maraga is with us today, and it's been a very busy couple of days for him, but he's here either way, and we're going to have a conversation around a number of things, but joins us in the hot seat this morning regardless. CJ, good morning.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, and karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We're going to discuss quite a number of things today, of course, look into certain areas, and so we thank you. Interpretation is something that you do for a living. Yeah. So let's see into some of these things today as we get into it. Karibu sana. As you know, Dennis takes us to a different African country every week. This week we are in Guinea, and he's come with the Proverbs. We'd love your interpretation
of the same.
Yeah,
but a few things in Guinea is they are the largest producers of bauxite, which is used in production of aluminium. Now, aluminium tends to be one of the most expensive metal as we speak today, because think about any vehicle today, and aluminium is an important component in the production, especially of engines and even body panels. But let's go to the proverb. When a mother has twins, she must sleep on her back. When a mother has twins, she must sleep on her back. How would you interpret it?
The interpretation is that the mother should be careful not to lie on either. I mean, naturally you would expect the mother to have put the babies, one on this side and one on the other. Yeah. So the best way is to lie on the back. The idea is to make sure that you don't lie on the baby. That's my understanding.
That's beautiful.
I say it's a great interpretation.
Great interpretation, yeah.
Absolutely.
You talk about safety and security of the people she loves.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, we haven't seen it before, that a former CJ then is going to be bundled into a vehicle and arrested after having, expressed certain concerns over certain things. So, day before yesterday was an interesting day. I mean, we're talking about your political aspirations, your presidential aspiration, but at the same time also fighting for a particular thing. And then we saw what we saw in terms of what happened when you were arrested. Give us a little bit of information about what that was all about and why this happened.
Thank you very much, Ndu. There was a proposal, or there is a proposal that was made to Kenya Wildlife Service for acquisition of some land in Nairobi National Park. Ostensibly for the relocation of the orphanage. The argument being that where the orphanage has become a little crowded, especially with the traffic going in. And but then they first started with I think 20 something acres for that relocation. The acreage kept mutating. Then it went to 76, and eventually it ended in 89 acres. There was no proper public participation. When you are having an issue like that happening in Nairobi, one would expect a town hall, a hearing, so that the residents of Nairobi could be heard. What KWS did, it just gave a few NGOs limited hearing and approved the acquisition of 87 acres of Nairobi National Park. As I've said, ostensibly for the relocation of the orphanage, and now build a car park of a capacity of 1,300 acres. I mean, 300 cars. And eventually it came out that the main issue is to provide a parking for the Bomas International Conference Center, which is being built across. Because if you see that they are talking about even a walkway to that area that is going to be over a footbridge over Langata Road. So I mean, we understood that to be a very, very serious encroachment onto the national park. Remember, Nairobi National Park is the only national park in the world in the capital city. And it is being there is extremely important. You know, Nairobi is becoming a concrete jungle. Yes. Actually, you need to go to Ngong Hills and look at Nairobi. You will see the pollution. In fact, you will see like Nairobi is in smoke. So a national park like this one was planned to enable fresh air to the residents in Nairobi. That's not all. It's a great tourist attraction. So if we continue doing this, we will soon, you will find Kenya bidding to host the World Cup. And then they will say, look, let's build another stadium in the national park. Development is not supposed to be at the expense of the environment. So I joined the Greenbelt movement, the Friends of Nairobi National Park, and other organizations which were opposed to this excision. In my capacity as the leader of United Green Movement Party, which among whose objectives is to preserve the environment. So we went there, and initially everything was okay. In fact, the police allowed the march. Uniformed police were there. They were controlling the traffic, and we moved. But another group of policemen in civilian clothes, they just came and tear gassed us, and then bundled them into others into that truck and took us to Langata police station.
On what charge?
I haven't been told even now.
Okay, and you were let go at the end of the day, from what we understand, on a free bond.
When I got to the police station, I was told, CJ, because you are a senior citizen, we will let you go. Okay. You are free to go. I said, no, I can't go. Most of those people who were arrested were my security officers and some from my party. So I said, look, these people came here because I was here. How do I now walk out and leave them?
Leave them here.
That would be terrible betrayal. And I said I would not leave unless we are all released. If they are not being released, please get them into those cells, and I sleep there with them.
Yeah. CJ, when you talk about public participation, which has been bone of contention for a very long time in Kenya, it's seemingly eroding to a point where public participation seems to be another suggestion, not something that is keen or being respected. Now, when you talk about development, even today in Nairobi, if you want to sink a borehole, there is an impact assessment test that you have to pass, and NEMA has to approve for you to sink that borehole. Now, here we're talking about construction of what would be a car park inside the Nairobi National Park, and the impact assessment test, Nairobi citizens have not been furnished with that to look at the effects that would have. And when we talk about also public participation, I, for instance, never saw the advertisement for me to be part and parcel of that, because I am a resident of Nairobi and a Kenyan for that matter, which speaks to the rule of law. Has the Constitution been reduced to a suggestion and not the cardinal rule and law that governs the country.
Exactly, you have said it. Quite a number of people wanted to reduce the Constitution to a suggestion. The Constitution is a command. And unless we regard it as so, we are going to go into anarchy. People, I mean, what is happening now, where public participation is required, is some tokenish kind of process that is given, and it is called public participation. In fact, like this one, I mean, they, as I told you, the acreage kept mutating. And the KWS was reluctant to give full information as to exactly what they wanted to do. And here, when eventually it came out that they required a car park for the Bomas International Conference Center, who are the owners of Bomas? How is the public going to benefit? First of all, Bomas of Kenya has been leased to that conference center for 40 years. So, by the time it reverts, whatever construction is going to be done there reverts to the Kenyan people to begin reaping their benefits. You will need a reconstruction of that. So this is all intended to benefit public interests at the expense of a national heritage. Nairobi National Park is 90 years old. Is this something we want to give away so easily like that?
Right.
And it's a serious thing. That's why I thought it was worthy joining the others and protesting and saying no, we should be careful. This is the same trend. It is now becoming a trend. Yeah. Recently, we were told that there are plans to excise. Is it 200 acres in Imenti forest?
Yes.
To build a state lodge. And a golf course,
which the Meru have more or less refused. They've said no.
They have refused. Yes. They have refused. This is the same thing recently, logging was allowed in Mau Forest.
Yes.
Remember, 27 counties out of 47 counties in Kenya are arid and semi-arid. So what we are doing by this kind of acts is actually an extension of the arid area. When we should be doing the opposite. We should be doing everything possible to minimize the effects of arid areas. But we are doing the opposite. We are not even thinking about climate change. When it suits us, we talk about climate change. We talk about planting, is it how many billion trees?
15
billion trees. You go to Karura Forest, cut down the forest in the name of having seedlings. I mean, it is interesting.
It's interesting that you say these things, and CJ, even as you're involved in this, because we know that your party, then of course, is very big on the environment and things like this, and that this is something that you've always been involved in. But the question is, to get into activism, is it because that you feel that these things should be abided by, whether they're constitutional, whether they're environmental, or is it because you are an aspirant for the presidency that you are now involved physically on the ground in this activism? It's a question that is out there.
Some people would want to read my act in different ways. But what is important is this. Is this the way we want to manage our resources? Is this the way we want to manage our resources? I say no. I have been involved in issues that related to the Constitution. public participation is a constitutional requirement. And unless we are ready to enforce the Constitution, we will run into great risks. You will have, we will be entrenching the impunity in the actions of government officials in this country. And that, in my view, should not be allowed.
Allow me to connect it to the very famous considerations that you then gave out as you were exiting the stage as CJ. And you said very clearly that Parliament ought to be dissolved if on anything that they were not able to attain the 2/3 gender rule. And you said, in this case, the executive has only one job to do: vacate Parliament, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you've been hanging on to the threads of the Constitution, and we see things over and over and over again that legal minds, as well as judicial officers, would say that this flies in the face of the Constitution. You've just mentioned public participation. When we talk about presidential aspirants, it's not just somebody wanting to be president, but it is somebody who is involved in and engaged in the activities of constitutionalism.
Exactly.
The other day, there was a court ruling. I'm not even going to talk about the individual, but I'm going to talk about the processes of constitutionalism, where from the mouth of judges, it was clear that there was an aspect of constitutionalism that was not adhered to. But what they did was compensate for it. What should be done as per interpretation when you see that an aspect of the Constitution has not been adhered to? Do you say, let's go and do it again? Or do you put some money at it? Coming also from a CJ who nullified an entire election based on procedure. What should happen when the Constitution has not been followed?
Thank you. You brought in here two issues.
Yes.
The first one is my advisory to the President to dissolve Parliament under Article 261. Quite a number of people criticized my decision, but I want you to look at it this way. This was one of the transitional provisions, as we call it, that required Parliament to enact legislation to actualize the 2/3 gender rule. Parliament was given 5 years to do that. At the time the application came to me, it was over 9 years. And what the evidence I had before me was what I call tokenish kind of thing. Parliament was not serious. There were bills. When it is supposed to sit, they were saying we don't have quorum, we don't have this, and the act went on. And the provisions of Article 261 were mandatory. There were, I think, 4 court orders. Directing Parliament to pass that legislation. Now, recently, a decision of the High Court declared my advisory unconstitutional on the ground that the order of the court, the High Court, before the matter came to me, had not been transmitted to the speakers of the National Assembly and the Attorney General. I looked at that and I was asking myself, the issue was that this order was not transmitted to Parliament. What is transmission? What is the purpose of transmission? The purpose of transmission is to bring it to the attention of Parliament that this order has been passed. The order was passed in the presence of the lawyers of Parliament.
Yes.
Now, that's not all. Parliament actually appealed against that order. And the Court of Appeal dismissed its appeal. then you now say because the order was not transmitted as the Constitution says. I mean, you have to read the spirit of the Constitution. What is the purpose? The same Constitution says that substantive justice should not be undermined by procedural technicalities. Article 159(2) D of the Constitution. So my understanding is this. Sometimes courts should also be careful, not to. In fact, almost. I don't want to use the word undermine the constitutional provisions, but they should read the Constitution as a whole, and see that the substantive justice in this case required the requirement of substantive justice in this case is to bring it to the attention of Parliament, so that Parliament is not blamed for what it doesn't know. Yes. Now coming to the other issues about violation of constitutional provisions. I don't know which case you had in mind.
Well, let's go with the Gachagua ruling that went out on Tuesday. On Monday, actually.
Yes. I have. I saw that judgment, and a lot of things came to my mind. I was asking myself a lot of things. Under Article 225, I believe, is it 2C? The right to a fair hearing is sacrosanct. What does that mean? Actually, the provisions in the Constitution, the wording in the Constitution is that it cannot be limited. What is the message from here? It is the importance of the right to a hearing, to a fair hearing. The court finds that Honorable Gachagua was not given a fair hearing. And he has been impeached. In my view, after that finding, the inevitable conclusion should have been to annul that impeachment. Why do I say so? Sometimes the argument I saw in the judgment is that acts the process has proceeded. A new deputy president has been appointed. You can't reverse some of those acts. If I recall, in Gachagua's petition, he actually said, look, he doesn't want reinstatement as the deputy president. He made it very clear to the court. So, when a right to a hearing is sacrosanct, the proper interpretation, in my view, is to annul what the Senate had done. And some of the provisions of our law are meant to be deterrent. Yes. If you allow this, that you can trample upon the rights of somebody, give him a few shillings, and the life continues. And particularly so when the 50 million is not coming from the pockets of the senators themselves. It is coming from the Senate. The fine or the damages are awarded against the Senate, not against the individual senators who actually voted for the impeachment. What is the effect of that? Government officers will continue violating the Constitution, knowing that they will not be punished individually. We will be entrenching the culture of impunity in our systems.
CJ, in the nullification of the 2017 election, one of the reasons given was because of the process did not meet the threshold. We look at, again, the impeachment process here, where even the court itself said that The National Assembly did everything according to the law and the Constitution, but when it comes to the Senate, it did not meet the process. The process, therefore, means whatever happens in the National Assembly and whatever happens in the Senate, everything forms the complete process.
Correct.
When one part of the process fails, the entire process has failed. It can't be that a single part works, another one doesn't work, and that you can proceed with that. That means that by continuing with the position where we find ourselves today, what we are doing is abrogating the Constitution and continuing with an illegality.
Correct.
And therefore, for us to move forward, it does not matter whether there is another deputy president or not. The Constitution is clear. If you do not follow the process, even the person holding the office is there illegally. Could I be right? Would Kenyans be right to think like that?
Why not? In my advisory, the arguments that have been put to me was that if you recommend the dissolution of parliament, the country is not going to have budget bust. The country is not going to this. This is a constitutional provision which was put there with the clear understanding of the role of parliament. And in the advisory, I said, look, there is no gain. In some situations, there is no gain without pain.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to stamp out illegal acts, there is going to be inconvenience to be caused. There is going to be even serious damage caused. But if that is what we should go through so that we respect the law, sometimes it is important. Sometimes it's extremely important. If we don't take, firm action in some cases, the Constitution will be a suggestion and not a command, as we have rightly put it. And that is how a country slowly degenerates into a failed state. A failed state doesn't come in one day. It is a process of illegal acts being performed without being declared null and void. Yeah. So we should. That's why I am a very strong advocate of constitutionalism and the rule of law. Without that, you run into anarchy. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it looks as though there are very many examples of what you speak about. And again, I'm going to that you, as a presidential aspirant, has been very firm on the rule of law.
Yes.
And maybe people might say, okay, well, it's not very exciting, but it's the fundamentals that we're talking about here.
Yes.
And that if you don't have them, that essentially your state, as you say, could fall apart. But for everything that seems to be going wrong, there seems to have been a court order somewhere to then be able to protect it. Whether it is security, that's again a suggestion. Whether it's safety and health, again, conservatory orders have been given for certain things to then be done, and it seems to be ignored. There are people who are protesting in Laikipia today. You were protesting in the national park the other day and being arrested for it. There are children who should be receiving capitation as per the law. It doesn't happen. That your debt should not be beyond a certain number. It hasn't happened. That a debt ceiling is not supposed to be, you can't go beyond the ceiling. Once you're at the ceiling, you've ended at the end of the house, but we seem to be able to keep going beyond that. What am I asking? As a presidential aspirant, these things are going to be knocking you in the face over and over and over again. What needs to be done? We can politicize things, but what actually needs to be done to sort out some of these things from where you sit? You seem to say that you cannot flirt with impunity because it'll take you over. You must deal with it. How would you deal with it?
Thank you very much. Talking about the demonstrations in Nanyuki, is it one or two people who were shot there yesterday?
One.
And there were also demonstrations by Multimedia University, and I believe two people were also shot dead. very many things come into one's mind in a situation like this one. First of all, the police are required by law to use force, especially when you go using the firearm in very exceptional circumstances, extremely exceptional circumstances. I have not seen the whole clip of what transpired in Nanyuki to require use of firearm. I have not seen the clip on what requires the use of firearm against students. In most cases, all those people were unarmed. The police are supposed to use a firearm when, in fact, the policeman's life is in danger. Eh? Because we do not condemn some of these acts, they're being repeated over and over again, and that's what I'm saying. Look, unless we are firm on this, we are going to cast the rule of law aside, and now you act as you want, and I mean that is a very, very serious abrogation of the law. So what we are saying is, let us comply with the law. Our best safeguard is compliance with the law and saying no to illegal acts that are being perpetrated. Without that, we are going to run into very serious problems. Come to Nanyuki. Why are these people demonstrating? Kenya is, one of the countries in the world which should cooperate with other countries. You can't operate in isolation. Yes. When there is an epidemic, Kenya should cooperate with other countries to contain that epidemic. Now, look at the issue of Ebola. Ebola is in DRC Congo. People are traveling from there, and they can easily transmit it to others in Kenya and other places. Ordinarily, if it was being done well, this is something which should have been discussed by US on almost an equal basis. You get it from the US government saying, look, we cannot allow even our own citizens who are infected with Ebola to come to US. But you can take them to Kenya. That alone is terribly condescending. What message is America sending to Kenya? The American, the life of the Americans is more important than those of Kenyans. And I think that is the offensive thing that has brought about all these protests against Ebola. And in any case, scientific advice is that an epidemic like this one should be contained at source. Yes. So the quarantine should have been done in DRC Congo. Why do you have to do it in Kenya? The argument that we have an agreement with America, I mean, the logical conclusion was to contain it out there. Yeah? Why extend the provisions of that agreement to bring the quarantine to Kenya? I agree that some Kenyans traveling from DRC Congo could also get infected and bring the virus to Kenya. Measures should be taken, and if this one was being taken properly, with the Kenya being considered as an equal partner, and not with those condescending remarks, it would not have raised this kind of uproar.
This raises the question on sovereignty.
Exactly.
And Kenya's position and in its diplomatic circles and how it engages with everybody else. Because even the construction of that quarantine facility, many are asking the questions because the United States of America is saying, we are setting up this quarantine facility for American citizens who have been infected by the disease. There is nowhere there is conversations that Kenyans as well, who at any point get infected, will have access to that facility. But that notwithstanding, again, you read everything together with scientific advice and what doctors are suggesting, and that Kenya now seemingly has lost its sovereignty, that it can be directed by another state on what they want to do on our soil. Exactly. And one asks the question, are Kenyans really being listened to? Or are Kenyans there to be seen and not to be heard?
Exactly. The under foreign policy, the government, the first thing the government is supposed to consider is the interests of the country. You've talked about sovereignty. That's why I said, according to the Americans, a Kenyan, the life of a Kenyan is not as important as that of an American. What are you talking about? That's a violation of our sovereignty. So, and what these people who are demonstrating, what our fellow Kenyans who are demonstrating are saying is, let us be treated as equal partners. Let us not be reduced to a level where we're being taken like guinea pigs. Those are among the things that we should be considered. And that's why you find sometimes, because of private interests, because of the interests of the leaders, they totally compromise the interests, the national interests, and champion their own interests. So these are among the things that as Kenyans, we should stand up and say, no, this should not be done. So that we even make a statement out of that. Yeah.
So how do some of these things play out then? In the law, where seemingly, where there is adjudication of cases, there are pronouncements that are made, and then they're not followed.
Yes.
And one of the big issues that we look at is the Auditor General, who is constantly giving reports about how money is missing, where it has gone, whether it has been mismanaged or misappropriated. But there's very little action that's taken at the end of the day in terms of what to be done. We had an example this morning whereby e-citizen funds to the tune of 6.7 billion shillings, there's still a question mark about. But that has not happened because of, interestingly enough, akin to your advisory about the 2/3 gender rule, there has been no quorum to discuss the issue about where this money went. Same thing with Kenya's debt. Kenya doesn't have a problem with resources. Kenya has a problem with how it spends it. The country's debt, many argue that it's odious, but that's the problem, whereby you cannot fund so many activities that government needs to, because most of it is going towards debt repayment. How should this be handled?
It is. All these things come revolving around compliance with our law, compliance with the Constitution. Article 211 provides clear provisions for borrowing by the national government. First of all, it allows Parliament to enact legislation to implement or to be able to borrow, to regulate the borrowing. And Parliament has given legislation under the Public Finance Management Act, allowing the CS Treasury to borrow. What you don't see is, the lending institutions are keen. They say, look, tell us the purpose of what, of this borrowing. And in most cases, from the what I have read, the CS gives the purpose. What is not followed, or what is not taken seriously, is the purpose. And the moment you don't comply with that provision, because the borrowing is meant for development. Section 15 of the Public Finance Management Act forbids borrowing for recurrent expenditure. Borrowing is meant for development. So because we are not serious, Parliament is not serious It is like it has abdicated its responsibility to the cabinet secretary. It has, in short, abdicated its responsibility to the executive. The executive can say, look, we want to borrow to construct roads. And the parliament approves. If parliament doesn't follow up and find out whether the money has actually been used for the purpose it was borrowed, the executive can use it to hire luxury jets to fly the president around the globe. I mean, is that how we want to operate as a country? Now, public debt has risen. It is heading to 13 trillion. As we stand in the 2026-2027 budget, it is going to take more than, is it 2.3 trillion out of the 4 point what trillion of the budget? About 48% of the national budget is going to service debt. This is debt that most of it is odious. And I commend the Honorable Omtata. He has taken the matter to court. We want to see how the court determines that matter.
Odious in what sense, CJ?
Odious.
When you're asking, at this 2.8 trillion, you're saying quite a lot of it is odious debt. Meaning what? That you can't see requisite development projects or what?
It is not utilized for the purpose it was borrowed. When borrowed funds are not used for the purpose they are borrowed, it becomes an odious debt. It is not benefiting the public. There was a case in Mozambique. The Mozambique court, Mozambicans took a matter to court, and they got an order ordering the Swiss banks, which had lent the money, which didn't go to the public, to refund the money that the repayment had been done. International lenders are obligated to ensure that the money is used for the purpose it was borrowed, so that the public are protected. So it is all coming around to the enforcement of the law. It's all coming around to the enforcement of the law. If you don't enforce the law, people, the executive will borrow and use the money as they want. The executive will tramp upon people's rights, and it is, it's total impunity. The culture of impunity cannot be contained.
And you see, CJ, when you talk about odious debt and 48% of our overall budget being used to repay debt, there has to be a connection on what that means to Mwananchi.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, what you're being told is, even the leadership of the country says that we have to tighten our belts. But Kenyans are tightening their belts. They're being overtaxed, But we are not seeing the tightening of the belt when it comes to the executive and how that money is spent. We live in the same country where everybody else is tightening belts, but we are spending 8 million shillings every day to just move around the country. We are seeing the president spending close to 500 million in a trip because he's chartered a private jet. And when you pause and look at it critically, it is because there is what the law says, what must be done, and that is not being done. Is Parliament the weakest link in upholding the law and ensuring that on matters, especially when it comes to economy and how public funds are spent, that they do not sit down and do their job?
You've said it. Parliament is actually the weakest link. It's like when the parliamentarians get elected, all they think about is their welfare and not the welfare of their constituencies. Because if they were taking their roles seriously, they should be the first ones. Members of Parliament should be the first ones to shout the loudest when the Constitution is being violated. But we are seeing, in fact, if anything, they are coming with all manner of arguments to water down the provisions of the Constitution, which is extremely unfortunate. Extremely unfortunate. And that's where I'm also getting extremely concerned about the interpretations coming from our courts. I mean, the court should understand that they are the last line of defense in this country.
CJ, how would you rate how we've handled the education crisis that the country finds itself in today? Because we see students are speaking, we see schools going up in flames, but we've had a principal secretary who has been just thumping and not addressing the issues. Given a chance, how would you want these addressed?
Yes. Just let me finish what I was saying about the interpretation of the law by our courts. As I said, the courts must understand that they are the last line of defense for the Kenyans, and be firm in their decisions. Make sure that the law is followed. When the law is not followed, you have the Haiti kind of situation. We don't want to go there. We don't want to go there. And what my appeal is that they let our judges and magistrates stand up courageously and say no to the violation of the Constitution, to the violation of the law. Coming to education, all these things are revolving around the governance of the country. The fires we are seeing in schools, the unrest we are seeing in schools, has serious effects, ripple effects. Children are not being educated as they should. They are missing classes. They are missing, the instructions in class because the schools are being closed. What has brought all this? You can't blame one institution, in my view. Of course, there are others which take much more blame than some. The unrest in school as literally all of us involved. It starts with parenting. And I have argued this in other fora, that as a parent, if you don't train your child the basic things in life when that child is young, he's going to be riotous. Even the Bible says, train a child in the way he should go, and that child will follow. When a child is not trained to respect authority, authority starts with the mother, what the mother is saying, and goes on. So that is inculcated in the life of the child.
Yes.
That child is going to be to create problems later. Now, the parents have a role to play. The teachers have a role to play. Society as a whole has a role to play. But the greatest responsibility comes when it comes to schools. The greatest responsibility is now cast on the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education, in this case, in my view, especially the fires that we are seeing, the Ministry of Education is supposed to bring all the stakeholders together. The parents, the children themselves, they should be heard why they are setting the schools on fire, and the matter discussed. In other words, don't treat the symptoms. Go to the cause of the problem and deal with it. Now, the ministry, instead of doing that, it is glossing over such a very serious issues. We have had these fires, we have had deaths. It started, was it Bombolulu?
Yes.
Bombolulu, we had Changuli, we had Nairobi girls. The last one was Utumishi. Children have died. Kenyans have died. Kenyan children have died. What is more serious than that? Now, as I said, all this is coming up, and the talk we are hearing is that even the teachers themselves are aggrieved. Some are being transferred, willy-nilly. Promotions are being given to others, and the others are left out. So it's a whole problem that capitation, as you said, is not being sent to the schools. How are the schools supposed to manage? How does a principal feed children if he does not have money? So all these are the problems that the ministry knows, and the ministry should get all these actors together, play its part, bring all these stakeholders together and deal with that problem once and for all. But because, as I said, we are not bothered about some of the what happens, and we are not shouting loud enough, in my view, we are going to continue having children dying. We are continuing to have children setting fire and killing their fellow students.
Because we're not addressing the issue.
Because we are not addressing the issues. There is drug abuse going to even schools. My friend, if we don't contain these acts, we are all in this boat, and we are going to suffer very badly.
A last question for you, CJ, that what do you think would be difficult or easy in a presidency with the things that you see that are currently going on in Kenya that need fixing or that need to maintain the status quo? What would be difficult? What would be easy if you were in the driver's seat?
Thank you very much for asking that question. As you know, my sister, I've not been a politician. I've come to this space because of a dire need to set the country on the right track. We have derailed. I want to reset the country on its constitution and the rule of law, so that we can deal with this. Most of what is happening is because of indecisive kind of situation, lack of political will, right from the top. As president, if you are firm and say, look, this can't happen, the law must be followed. Your officers who are not following the law, you take action against them. You will have order. Let me tell you, Kenya is one of the countries where the citizens are law-abiding. You just need to be firm. You remember what the late Michuki did?
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, wear safety belts. And it was very firm. It was followed. It was followed. When Kibaki came to power, immediately he came to power, some citizens were arresting police officers who were taking bribes on the road.
True.
And for a short while, there was order. What does that tell you? If you are firm on what should be done as head of state and say, no, this one is not going to be done, take action. If there is an officer under you who is not complying with the law, take action against him, and there will be order. If you look at what is happening in the country, in my view, something like corruption is, in my view, an existential threat to the security and survival of this country. If firm action is not taken to deal with corruption in this country will break. I can assure you it is going to break. We have unemployment, which is, more than 67% of the young people are unemployed. And remember, the young people comprise more than 75% of the population. You're not going to tell somebody who is sleeping hungry to comply with the law, and you are eating and throwing surpluses to the dustbins. They are not going to take that.
Indeed.
So unless we are serious about that, this country is going to break, let me tell you. You can't see opulence from people. Some of you were your classmates. They are here.
Yeah.
I mean, you are struggling here. You're paying your mortgages, but here are your colleagues, who are traveling by choppers, and they are telling you, "Look, this is from my own money." And I mean, you ask yourself, some of us are so stupid that we don't know how to make that money so that we can also be comfortable.
No. Indeed.
And you know clearly that this is all looting of public resources.
Your message is clear this morning, and it's clear what you want to do, but it's also clear where your head is. CJ Emeritus David Maraga has been our guest this hour. We look forward to the next conversation, and thank you for being in the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. As I said, let us all say no to impunity. Let us all say no to corruption. Otherwise, unless we do that, we will not have a country.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.